Alright guys, so I left you hanging with the last video. I thought we'd get farther than we did, so let's just jump back into things. Okay, if you remember, we left off just getting the button set up and, you know, knowing how to end rounds and all that cool stuff. So let's go ahead and make sure your script is saved. Let's go into Unity. On your hierarchy, click on your game manager. I noticed that total enemies, we set to 3 in the code, but it's being overwritten by our original 8. So let's set that to 3 here. And let's go ahead and apply that. And this max enemies on screen, it kind of ended up being just an extra variable that I don't think we need. It just kind of is confusing. So let's go ahead and just remove that from our game manager. So go ahead and open Game Manager, and let's go to the top, and wherever max enemies on screen is, right here, let's delete it. Let's save it, and now wherever there's an error, we're going to put total enemies there. So max enemies, do total enemies. It kind of just ended up being, we're always going to allow whatever our total wave of enemies is on the screen. We don't want to have some limiting factor there. And I think that's the only place we were using it. So it was a wasted variable. So after that's saved, let's go ahead and try this out. And we should be able to have waves now. So if you press play, you can build a tower. It should kill people. All right. Uh-oh. So for whatever reason, it only counted the first 2 enemies that we killed. So we'll have to figure out that bug. All right, now with that removed, I also noticed I made a typo, and I don't know if you copied me or were just yelling at me that I made a typo. In my getter, or my setter for total killed, I had total money here, so that wasn't good. So go ahead and make sure you change that if you copied me. Otherwise, I caught it. I know. Oops. So let's go ahead and run this now. And we should be able to go to another wave after we kill the first wave or the first wave escapes. With all of this stuff. Awesome. So look, we have our next wave button. Boom. And our next wave starts. The only problem is, oh, I guess that's not a problem yet. We do want our tower to stay. So this is cool. And then we can keep hitting next wave. And let's let some escape, and we'll see if it works. We should see this label increment. All right, so this should be 2. Once Scully 1 and 2 get to the end of the map. Oh my goodness, look at that. And then next wave works. So we like have a game. And if we get to, you know, wave 10, we would see, you know, a play button show up, and your job will be to put that banner in that says you win. So that's pretty sweet. Or if 10 enemies end up escaping, we would lose. So this is looking good. We have to do a few more things. So we have to make sure we subtract money when we place our towers, right? So maybe we should do that now. Let's open up our tower manager. So inside our tower manager script, we're going to want to add a new script called buy tower. And we can put it underneath place tower since we'll be calling it from there. So go ahead and make this public void and just say buy tower. And we want to pass in our price of the tower. So just an integer, and we'll call it price. And then all we have to do is call our game manager dot instance subtract money, and then pass in price. And now when we try to buy a tower, it will subtract for us. Okay, so obviously we don't want to buy a tower if we don't have enough money. We don't want to allow the user to even get this far, right? So I think right here where we select our tower and we can start dragging it around, we probably don't want to allow them to select the tower if they don't have enough money. So let's put a if statement around the setting the tower button and enabling the drag sprite inside the select tower method. So let's go ahead and do if tower button dot tower price. All right, guys, we're passing in a tower button. I am using the wrong variable here. We want to use tower selected for getting the price here. Okay, that should work. Let's go ahead, save it, and let's run it one more time. Let's press, there we go, and let's place our tower. It didn't subtract, so let's see what's going on there. We know this tower isn't free. Oh, we're not subtracting, silly us. Okay, so let's see. If we buy a tower, but we're not calling buy tower, are we? So in our place tower, we need to call buy tower. And in here, we're going to pass in our new tower, our tower button pressed dot tower price. There we go. All right, third time's a charm when we remember everything. Let's try this again. So we press play, we select our tower, and we place it, and there we go. It subtracted money from us, and now we're getting money for every enemy killed. And look at that, we got $3, and we can push next wave, and the next wave starts. Pretty cool. We're getting there, guys. Okay, for our next thing, you know how I said we have to register all of our towers we build? I want to demonstrate why we need to. So we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to say total waves. So click on Game Manager, and let's change the total waves from 10 to 1 wave. So we just have to play 1 wave in the game, okay? And I'm going to show you what happens when we hit play again. So press play. Let's build a tower. Hopefully we can kill all these guys. It is the first wave. It's supposed to be easy. And our tower glitched or something. We should probably look into that. But so once this guy escapes, it's going to say play, not next wave. Okay. So let's hit next wave, and something isn't working. Okay. So we needed to put that at 0. I forgot we start counting at 0. So the math is off a little bit. But so, okay, it says play. So when I press play, we need the tower to disappear and all the enemies to disappear, right? So let's do that. All right, the tower doesn't disappear. And that's because we actually don't have any references to it. Like our enemies in Game Manager, let's go to our scripts and go to Game Manager. We actually we call this destroy all enemies function, right? So it's actually going through our registered list of enemies to remove them. All right, so we need to do the same exact thing in our tower manager to keep track of every tower placed so we can remove it. And you know what we're also going to have to do? We're going to have to rename the hit collider tag back to build site, or we're going to have all the towers removed. And when you press play, you won't be able to build a tower where the old tower used to be. So that's what we have to do. We have to register all our towers now. Okay, so let's make a list. We have to do the same exact thing that we did in our game manager. So you guys can reference that if you can't remember. Okay, so we need to make let's make 2 private lists, okay? The first list is going to be list game object. All right. And our game object is going to be a list of our tower. So just name it tower list equals new list of type game object. we need to import system.collections.generic for the lists to work. There we go. And once that's done, we can actually make this a list of towers, right? Not a game object. We know what we're making a list of. And then let's make another private list. And this time we have to make them of colliders. Collider 2D. And the reason we need to do this is we have our build tiles, right? And we're renaming the collider tag of our build tile to build site full when we build a tower. So we have to remember what collider we named build site full so we can go back through and rename them build site when the game starts over so another tower can be built there. So let's call this one build list, okay? And then go ahead and say new list, and these are collider 2D. Okay, so that one's done. Now we also have to, in the start menu, since we're using collider 2D, we have to say build tile. We have to create a private variable now called build tile of type collider 2D. So we have something we can put in this list, and that's going to be build tile, okay? And then we also have to set that variable build tile. We have to get component build tile. So go ahead and say get component, not build tile. We have to get component collider 2D. Okay, so that'll allow us to reference our build tile colliders so we can rename them to build site. All right. Now we have to just do the same exact thing we did in the game manager where we're registering enemies. We have to register buildings and register game sites or build sites, build site tags. So right here at the top above update, let's just go ahead and put in our first public void and call this register build site. And we're passing in a collider 2D and just call this build tag. All right. And when we register it, we'll say build list dot add build tag. And that's as much as we have to do. Pretty easy. And then we also have to make another register. So public void register tower, and this is going to be of type tower, and we'll just lowercase call the variable tower and do the same thing. We need to do our tower list dot add and add tower to it. So now we have all of our references. Every time a tower is built, we'll call register tower, and we'll also call register build site in the same spot. So now underneath, we can make our unregistered methods. Okay, for this one, we're just going to make a variable called public void, and then we're going to say rename tags build site. Okay, rename tags build sites. All right. And all this is going to do is go through a for each loop and of type collider 2D. All right, and then we'll call the variable build tag inside of build list. So it's going to go through our list, and each variable we have, we need to call the build tag dot tag, and we have to rename it to build site. And that's all we have to do. And then outside of this for each loop, let's go ahead and just say build list dot clear. So we'll just make sure nothing is in that list anymore. It's just empty. And that's that. So now this will allow us to build a tower on the map after it's a game over or we play over again and the towers get removed. Now we have to make a public method that will remove all the towers when the game starts over. So let's call this destroy all towers. And we need a for each loop again. And this is of type tower. And this will be tower in tower list. So it's going to sort through tower list for us. And each object inside tower list we want to destroy. So hit destroy tower.gameObject. Okay. And then outside of the for each loop, we want to just make sure we clear out the tower list again. So tower list.clear. Now we have everything that we need to start the game over. Pretty cool. Okay, so now every time we change our build site collider, we want to call register build site. All right. So let's go ahead and say register build site. Register build site. And we want to pass in our build tile that we made. So we have to just refactor this a little bit. Let's go ahead, that variable build tile we just made, let's set equal to hit collider. All right. And then we're going to say build tile.tag equals build site full. And then we're going to register our build tile. And that's all we have to do there. And then every time we place a tower, so right underneath by tower, let's go ahead and let's see, by tower, let's say register tower. And we pass in our new tower variable. Just like that. Oh, and it's yelling at me because we originally called this new tower a game object. Let's just change it to tower. Let's do this properly. And it's going to yell at me here too. So let's tower button pressed. Let's go to the top and make sure our tower, we don't have any game objects up there. So we might just have to cast this as tower. All right, this is yelling at us because I'm guessing our tower object is also a game object. So let's go into our button script. Our tower button script, excuse me. So assets, scripts, tower, and then tower button. Sure enough, our tower object. So let's also make this tower. And then our public getter is a tower. Save. And save. Let's see if we need to cast this still. No, we don't. Okay, so in our tower button, I changed game object to tower in our private variable and our public setter. And then back in tower manager in our place tower, I now have that not casted. All right, cool. So now let's go to our game manager. All right, and let's go down to our next, our play button pressed code here. And in the default area, this is what happens if you play the game for the first time, or if it's like a game over and you're starting over. We want to make sure that our reset, so we want to destroy all the towers and rename all the build sites. So we have to call our tower manager dot instance dot destroy all tower. All right, and then we need our tower manager dot instance dot rename build sites, tag build sites. Okay, so that is done. And let's go ahead and test this out again. Let's save this script. Let's click on our game manager and let's change our total waves to 0. So we just play the first wave and go ahead and press run. Press play. Let's build a tower. And it yelled at us. Let's click on that error. The object you want to instantiate is null. All right, let's figure this bug out. Okay, so this null that we're getting is because we changed the game object tower to tower from game object. So if you come into our hierarchy here and go into our canvas, our tower panel, and our night button, you'll scroll down and see that the tower object is no longer placed. So we have to go into our prefab towers and drag in the night tower for the night button. And then the castle button. And then the rock button. And then let's just hit apply so those save to the prefabs. All right, and let's play this. All right, so place. Okay, now it worked. All right, enemies are dead. When I press play, the tower should be removed, and we should be able to place another tower exactly where it is. And we got a crash. So build site is not defined. Oh, I think we have to use a lowercase. Yep, we have to use a lowercase. Oh, build site full. Oh, right here where we renamed our build site tag, we need to use a lowercase b, and this is inside our tower manager. All right, so save that and let's run this again. I don't like that it's starting with this tower selected. We'll figure that out next. Oh, it's not actually selected though. Oh, maybe the game just didn't start properly. Okay, so press play. Okay, so now when we press play, these towers should disappear. All right, perfect. And we should be able to build on them still. Awesome. So that is working. All right, now I have to just figure out why we are selecting our tower when the game starts. All right, I think just to make sure our sprite renderer isn't on right when our game loads, let's go ahead in our tower manager script in the start method. Let's call sprite renderer dot enabled equals false, and that should solve our problem. Let's go ahead and press run, and we'll make sure that nothing is on our mouse when it first starts. Okay, that's cool. So press play. Now we can build our towers. They shoot at our enemies. This is pretty awesome. We're getting points. All right, and now when it's a game over, so basically right now, it just hit the last wave, so it would be like game over or you win. And in the final source code, I have the full game, so you can see it if you want to see what I did in order to just add some extra UI. But I think it's good practice for you guys to mess around with and learn on your own a little bit. So let's press play and just make sure we can build another tower here. And I think we're set. This is pretty cool. All right. I think what we'll do is we'll call this done. We're gonna finish this series off awesome. We're gonna add audio, and it just completes the game. When you have shooting noises and background theme music and a game over sound, everything's better with all these noises. So with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.